There's no way to know until we see it on Selection Sunday. But, we talked a little bit with you about the SEC getting, possibly a line, 8 teams, 9 teams. And I do think there is now a defined cut between, Mississippi State, who is the 9th team in the league at 5-6 in the league, 16-8, and then Georgia, the next team at 14-10, 4-7. And then you work, upwards from there. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, you go up the chain. Do you still feel that the SEC could potentially get 8 or 9 teams, or is it more like 6 or 7?
I do think the potential exists to get 8 or 9, Jake. As you mentioned, there are a couple lines of cutting there, right? So you've got your Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, like Kentucky, Florida. I think those teams feel pretty darn good that they're going to be not just in, but have some good seeds too. It's really, as you mentioned, the 2 teams right there in your backyard, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and I throw Texas A&M in there as well. That's going to be where the cut is how many of those 3 get in. I think 6 is your minimum, 9's your upside, and I wouldn't be surprised to see any number there, 7, 8, 9, depending on how those teams, specifically Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss, finish the year, and then what are they able to do in the conference tournament, and how many bid steals do we see in conference championship week from the other conferences.
Let's go back while I got you just a few more minutes to your Kelley Ford ratings that I'm looking through here. You obviously see your normal teams that we talk about, your Arizonas, your UConns. Houston has become a mainstay at the top. Even, I guess you could make a case over the last 3-4 years, even more so than Gonzaga, who you have at 19. Now, obviously, Gonzaga has been extremely successful, but you look at teams like Creighton, no stranger to this, at 15. You look at San Diego State, 27, who was in the championship game. Dayton at 30. Xavier, your Villanovas, not your St. John's, all in this list. New Mexico, a lot of non-traditional power type teams. Obviously, Villanova's won championships, have been there, and so Xavier. But you kind of follow me here. Like, it looks like we're kind of littered here. St. Mary's is in here at 21 of teams that could cause a lot of fits for a lot of people in the bracket.
Yeah, Jake, there are, and that's exciting, and people like that about March Madness. Obviously, it's one of the main draws of it. I think, and we've talked about this, maybe it's been a couple of weeks now, but the Mountain West, a lot of those teams you just named are Mountain West teams. I mean, the potential exists for, 5 or 6 teams from the Mountain West Conference to get into the tournament. That's as many as maybe the Big Ten. And we talk about the Big Ten being, clearly one of, if not the best conferences in men's basketball this year. I'd say the Big 12 is there. But in terms of, top teams, the Big Ten is always getting mentioned. The Mountain West is right there with some really good teams. I mean, you mentioned New Mexico, San Diego State. Those are probably the 2 that jump out to me the most, but I think they're deep enough. They're going to get 5 or 6 teams in the tournament too, and that is good to see. It's fun to see in college basketball in particular, teams from outside the Power 6, we'll call it, soon to be Power 5, when you throw in the Big East in there too and the going away of the Pac-12. It's fun to see them involved, and the American's going to get a couple. The A-10's going to get a couple. It's going to be a fun March for sure, and it just adds to the drama and intrigue, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw a team like a Florida Atlantic from last year make a deep run this March.
Kelley Ford, make sure to find him on X at Kelley Ford Ratings, also KFordRatings.com. Kelley, I appreciate your time. We'll jump back into it next week, more college basketball, and we'll start to peek into a little spring football as well.
Love it, Jake. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys have a great one. Thanks for having me.